Welcome to Pierside here on Sparks 1524. I'm Nathaniel Miller. Getting underway is one of the most dramatic and romantic moments of any ship's journey at sea. When a ship is pierside, the lines are doubled up. This means there are literally two lines coming from each mooring point on the ship. Doubling up the lines helps ensure some minor conveniences, such as your ship staying put during heavy weather. Trust me, it's generally considered bad form on the waterfront to allow your ship to go sailing off by itself when inclement weather drops in for a visit. Once the brow is raised prior to getting underway, the command "single up all lines" is given. This command results in one line at each point being cast off, and this is the moment when a sailor's heart really begins racing. The next command will be to cast off all lines, and the ship will be floating free. Now, what do we mean by shifting colors? Well, for those of you who have not been in the Navy, we literally shift where we're flying our flags once we're underway. While we're in port, the stern jackstaff has the ensign, the national flag. The bow has the Union Jack, or at certain times the Navy has us fly the Navy Jack. So when we get underway, those flags are lowered and the national ensign is then run up the mast. We literally shift colors as we get underway. The very first time I got underway was October 30th in the year 2000. I was a photographer's mate second class assigned as a reconnaissance camera technician with VF-213 working on F-14D Tomcat fighters. VF-213 and Carrier Air Wing 11 were heading to sea aboard USS Carl Vinson for TESTA, or Tailored Ship Training Availability. TESTA is the first workup exercise for deployment. It's a bit of a carrier, let me introduce you to the Air Wing. Air Wing, here's your carrier. Shake hands and let's have a good fight. Basically, it's a training cycle where everybody figures out how to play nicely together. I had a small point-and-shoot camera with me at the time, and unfortunately its focus turned out to be ridiculously bad. I only took 3 photos as we shifted colors. Well, I took 2, somebody else took 1. The first 2 I took right at the call of shift colors underway. The third one was taken by one of my buddies of me as the pier began receding. Now later, the next year, when VF-213 and Carrier Air Wing 11 got underway aboard Carl Vinson for the Western Pacific deployment, which we got underway on July 28th of 2001, I wasn't even on the flight deck. This was my first actual deployment, and I watched us get moving from inside the hangar bay because we were still unpacking and sorting tools. Later that morning, I stuck a camera in my tool pouch, one that actually had working focus, and I took a few shots of our guys and our F-14s as the aircraft flew aboard. But otherwise, I kind of missed that big underway moment on my first deployment. I didn't have much to do with the ship. I was a ship writer. My job was working on airplanes. First time I was ship's company was aboard USS Ponce, LPD-15. I reported to Ponce in August of 2010. Now, the ship was not supposed to deploy until October. That's one of the things I liked about reporting to that ship, because I was coming from teaching at the Defense Information School, and I'm about to get on a ship that's going to deploy. Well, great, I've still got a couple of months to move from Fort Meade, Maryland down to Norfolk, get settled, get used to the ship, and get underway. Yeah, it didn't quite happen that way. The Kearsarge Amphibious Ready Group, or ARG, was supposed to have the USS San Antonio, LPD-17. However, the brand new LPD-17 San Antonio broke, and broke hard. So the Ponce was shifted from our original ARG to the Kearsarge ARG, meaning that when I reported aboard on August 21st, I found out that we were deploying for 9 months on August 27th, basically 5 days later. It was a dramatic introduction. I didn't know anything about this ship. I didn't know my way around. I didn't know anybody. I had household goods that were still being unpacked. So it was a very dramatic moment. But now that I'm ship's company, this was also the moment I had to finally get on the deck plate and become part of the operation of a ship. I was determined not to screw it up, even though I felt about as insecure as a deck seaman reporting to the ship right out of boot camp. By the time I reported aboard Ponce, the Navy had merged the 4 media ratings, photographer's mates, journalist, draftsman, and lithographers mates, into a new combined Mass Communications Specialist rating, or MC. Smaller decks like Ponce either have 1 MC on the crew or else have 1 deployed aboard for the mission. A ship's company MC like myself should have had a full kit of video gear, lighting, dedicated laptop, still camera equipment, etc. However, because the Proud line was originally due for decommissioning in 2012, I was only able to scare up 1 mid-level SLR camera, 2 lenses, and 1 laptop. This severely limited my photo and video capabilities, but I did what I could. Fortunately for Ponce and the Navy, I'm a clever sort of fellow, so the "I did what I could" was actually quite remarkable, if I do say so myself. Underway Day on August 27th, 2010 was a long evolution for me. I was covering events for public release, of course, but I also had to be on deck to create a visual record in case something somewhat unpleasant happened. This meant I worked all morning, all afternoon, and then was up late sorting, captioning, and clearing images for release since Captain Crone had designated me as the public affairs officer. This was a pattern I was to follow the rest of my time on the ship. I never complained about the long hours I worked because the trade-off was that I didn't stand watch underway and my battle station was roaming the entire ship to photograph and document events. Once the family breakfast was done and the families had skedaddled ashore, we set about getting underway. Getting underway is not necessarily a quick process. It can take over an hour. You've got to raise the brows, be it a brow that was attached to the ship by a crane that now has to be lifted and moved, or it could be a brow the ship has. Ponce had a retractable brow that we could fold in on the side, so when we were in ports that didn't have services, we could swing the brow out and drop it and still get on and off our ship. The ship has to be deconnected from all the hotel services, sewage lines, fresh water lines, shore power. All those have to be disconnected so the ship can run on her own. Kearsarge got underway first, being that she is the senior ship in the Kearsarge ARG. The other ship in our ARG, USS Carter Hall, LSD-50, was actually down at Joint Base Little Creek. That's where she got underway from. So Ponce, we got underway after Kearsarge. I've been aboard the ship 5 days, 3 of which had been at home unpacking. I didn't really know my way around. I didn't know how to get to the aft line handling rooms yet. Ponce's aft lines are handled from line handling rooms, which are located below the flight deck. They're not in the open air like the forecastle was. I would learn where that was by the end of this day, but at the moment I had to concentrate on what I could see and where I knew to be. I got a great cardio workout as we got underway on August 27th, 2010. Remember, I was the entire media center, so I had to hoof it from the bridge to the bridge wings to the sides of the ship back to the bridge. You get the idea. I stayed off the forecastle itself due to my great personal desire for continued survival. I wasn't worried so much about getting injured, although that was a bit of a concern because I was new to this kind of ship. No, I was more afraid of the deck department sailors deciding a marauding mass communication specialist, whom they didn't yet know from a hole in the deck, would be an impediment to them safely getting on with their work. Rather than risk them giving me a diving lesson from the weather deck of Ponce, I stayed up on the forward superstructure. I'd get familiar with them and the rhythms of the forecastle soon enough, but for the moment, I wanted to stay alive on the first day of deployment. Once Ponce was clear of the pier and in the traffic lanes, we began the whopping 24-hour trip down to Morehead City in North Carolina. We'd pick up our embarked Marines and our embarked landing craft on the 28th, but for the moment, we were still transiting out of Chesapeake Bay. Late in the afternoon, we rendezvoused with USNS Leroy Grumman, TAO-195. This was for a replenishment at sea, or RAS. This is one of the Navy's more famous operations where we steam alongside a supply vessel, connect up a high line by shooting lines across to each other, and take on cargo. It's one thing to see this from inside the hangar bay of a carrier, but observing it from Ponce's flight deck was a whole different experience. You really get an idea of the power of the sea just by hearing it crashing between the ships as these seemingly woefully fragile pallets are hauled through midair. It was a very busy day. I finally had dinner around 1800, somewhere up in there. And then, like I said earlier, I was back in my office getting all these photos and what little video I had organized, cataloged, captioned, and then bundling the ones I'm going to release and sending them to the captain just to give him eyes on. We tied up in Morehead City, North Carolina on August 29th in order to embark the Devil Dogs of the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit and the sailors from 2 Navy Expeditionary Commands. Beachmaster Unit 2's personnel, the go-to experts for establishing and maintaining a logistical beachhead, embarked Ponce with the sailors of Assault Craft Unit 2 aboard the landing craft LCU 1661. An LCU is a landing craft utility. These vessels are the traditional landing craft possessing a shallow draft, enabling them to deploy vehicles and troops onto the beach via a bow ramp. To get the LCU into Ponce's wall deck, we partially sunk the ship. For real. Amphibious assault ships ballast down to decrease buoyancy, much the same way a submarine does. This allows the sea to flood the well deck, enabling small craft to enter and leave the ship. I got to get underway aboard LCU 1661 numerous times during the deployment. I had some truly incredible adventures with those guys. but those are stories for another day. Well, I appreciate your time and you joining me on this little voyage down memory lane. That was a very difficult night, very difficult day, but also a very exciting one. And it was the beginning of a very remarkable part of my career, one that was as defining for my future as my time in VF 213 was. There is a reason that my first novel, Proud Lion, the first of the accidental detective series, was set aboard Ponce. If you like this video, please hit that little like button that helps people find me on the algorithm, and it also does me no end of good knowing that somebody out there in the anonymous world likes my work. If you think somebody else would enjoy this, please feel free to share it. If you like my ongoing programming, I do ask you to hit that little subscribe button. I'm not the most prolific programmer on the planet, but I do try and get something out once or twice a month. Well, until I meet you here again on Sparks 1524, I hope you have a great day, have a great week, and go do some great things.